Hello, and welcome back to our weekly astrology podcast where we light our candles, we grab our blankets tonight. I'm extra cozy in my cute little temporary nook situation I've got going on, and we talk all things cosmos. I'm your host, astrologer, and coach, Sarah Paasch. And today's episode is bringing us into the official beginning of our next eclipse cycle. We are going to talk all things Aquarius, Aquarius New Moon, and layer in the fact that this is an Aquarius solar eclipse ruled by the planet Saturn that just entered into Aries, into its place of its fall or depression, its place of least amount of dignity or resourcing. So I'd love to hear, what's your rising sign and what house does Aquarius rule for you? And if you have any personal planets in Aquarius, you can drop those in the comments below and maybe even give me your degree so I can have a little bit more understanding of the transits that you're personally participating in right now. Or if you want a more intimate conversation with me and you want to know more about these eclipses that are coming up that are just starting and how they're going to impact you, then go ahead and check out that link below this episode for my one-on-one consultations. That's going to be the best place for us to go deeper and to also go farther out into the future and even back into the past, because the past has some of the best interpretive data, the historical data of your own lived experience that feeds our understanding of what it is that you're being called into right now and what that could potentially lead to for where you're going next or into the future. But regardless if you do the one-on-one session or not, I would still love to hear in the comments. So if you feel comfortable sharing, tell me in the comments what house does Aquarius rule, what planets do you have in Aquarius, and maybe even what degrees those planets are at. So we're going to cover this grand opening to eclipse season, this Aquarius New Moon annular solar eclipse, the key factors of this chart. I'm going to leave you with a few reflection questions that you can take away from this episode and into the eclipse season. So let's go ahead, let's get cozy, let's talk all things cosmos. And before we do, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for getting cozy with me every single week. And I'm loving the comments. You guys are killing it. Also, shout out to you guys for getting me to hype status. You can hype my videos now. I literally put that out there. I asked you guys to help me do that. And I think it was maybe the next week that I got the notification that I could be hyped. So thank you. I would not be able to have that without you. I appreciate you. In true Aquarius fashion, our people are protection. Our people are everything. And thank you for being part of where this community is starting, the building grounds of this community. So let's go ahead, let's dive in. Let's not waste any more time and get into this Aquarius new moon and the start of this eclipse season. Okay, so we have the Aquarius new moon. Again, it's an annular solar eclipse, which is visually when you look into the sky, if you were in a place in our world where you could see the eclipse from your geographical location, the sun is being eclipsed by the shadow of the moon, and visually it looks like a ring of light around the dark shadow of the eclipse. So I kind of like bringing that into this conversation because I think symbolically, the annular solar eclipses, there's something about the symbolism of rings, the symbolism of cycles, of coming full circle, the spiral path. And so I think there's something to just pin there, maybe drop a little note, come back to, put it in the back of your brain. Let it just like simmer back there, and maybe it'll bring some kind of thought-provoking contemplation for you at home. This eclipse is happening on Tuesday, February 17th at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So let's just talk a little bit of astro data first. I already mentioned in the beginning of this episode, the eclipse is ruled by the planet Saturn. Saturn is currently in Aries. It is days away from setting that new cycle with the planet Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. If you want to know more about Saturn and Aries and all the astro data and themes and details of that, go back to the last episode on this channel. I went a little bit deeper into those Saturn and Aries things and gave you some things to think about, maybe some ways to work with that transit, the new Saturn and Aries lesson plan for the next 2.5 years. And the other important thing to note about this new moon in Aquarius at 28 degrees, it is in a square to Uranus and Taurus. If you'll remember, right after the Leo full moon just a couple weeks ago, Uranus stationed direct at 27 degrees of Taurus. Just hours before this new moon, this solar eclipse in Aquarius, both the sun and the moon squared that Uranus. So they are separating from that square. They are bringing that square into the conversation of how we open this new eclipse cycle. And that means that this is some uncomfortable disruptions, disrupting the status quo. There might be some shock, there might be some awe, but there's definitely no space for denial of what's not working and what needs to change. And then we've got the other thing happening with this new moon eclipse, which is there's a co-presence with the planets Mars and Pluto currently in Aquarius. And we know Mars and Pluto, Uranus, ooh, these things together, and we put on a cherry on top. It's an eclipse. I mean, this is loud. This is not a quiet eclipse. This is not a time of feeling like we're just gonna take a step back, maybe see what happens. No, this Aquarius new moon, this solar eclipse, this is telling us it's time to get into action. It is fueling some collective ignition. We are going to feel a pressure coming from the future. There is this social friction. There is some system exposure. Eclipses have this nature of shadow material and working with our shadows personally and also collectively. Also, I should mention, I have an entire focus topic video all about eclipses. I talk about the difference between different astrological lineages and their ways of working with the nodes and the eclipses in that video, including Hellenistic, modern, and Vedic. So that's on the channel. You can find that in the Cozy with the Cosmos channel, and you can learn more about just the general nature of eclipses. We're not going to do that here, but I just want to mention this shadowy nature, that there's this exposure element that tends to happen at eclipses. And a new moon is considered to be associated with things of major new beginnings. We're not just starting a typical new moon, a new cycle. No, this is so much bigger. There's an acceleration to the energy behind the changes that are coming or the changes that are starting. There's also a faded quality to the eclipses and the new moons of these eclipses, these new beginnings. And there's the shadow quality. So there's something about the eclipse that is likely to present something previously that we weren't able to see. And if you're living in the United States of America right now, and you have any access to technology, any kind of access to a little bit about what's kind of going on, then you probably know we have been constantly exposed to some really dark shadows of our government, dark shadows of our current systems and our current ground rules of just living. There's a big polarization. There's a lot of problems, and it's undeniable right now for everybody. And whether you sit on one side or the other of viewing these issues, either way, you cannot deny that we are in disagreement. We are in strong disagreement collectively. And so for this setup with the Aquarius new moon, because so much has already continuously been exposed and put in our face, I'm guessing that this isn't going to be some new wake-up call. This isn't going to shock us in the way of what's going on, what's happening, what the issues are. But I'm wondering if maybe this eclipse in Aquarius is opening a cycle of exposing the power of the people, exposing a new power of our collective group think, for better or for worse. Aquarius is this fixed air sign ruled by that planet Saturn, the farthest reaching planet in our traditional planet scheme, the farthest planet that we can see with our naked eye. The sun is also in detriment in Aquarius, and that tells us that there's something about getting to the edge of something, reaching a vantage point of stepping outside of the central focus of either a personal life or a local environment, and getting a collective bird's eye view of where we fit, what is the piece of the puzzle in which we play our part. And so there's so much about collective, group, social systems, for better or worse. I also think with the fixed air quality, air has to do with our mind, intellectual thinking, communicating, and conversations. And ruled by the planet Saturn, Aquarius is known for having a gift of critical thinking, an ability to be detached and sometimes perceived a little bit icy or cold. Drop a comment below if you have any planets in Aquarius and you can relate to this feeling of being misunderstood. Maybe people reading you wrong, thinking that you're ignoring them or that you don't care about them, when really you just have a cool, calm, detached, objective perspective. You're able to hold the entire perspective of everything that's happening without getting consumed by it, without becoming totally involved or over-identified with it. That's the detriment of the sun in an advantage place, right? And honestly, with the North Node coming into Aquarius soon and the series of these eclipses starting to progress and really get amplified, especially with the Pluto and soon to be Jupiter and Leo participating in this. These conversations are about to get louder. And I think we can all agree that we need some of that Aquarius strength of detachment, of objective, critical thinking and discernment, the ability to step outside of ourselves and look at the bigger picture, to see the bigger impact on collective systems, on collective groups of people. Because at the end of the day, Aquarius is here to teach us what actually is fair, what actually is good, not just for one single individual, but good for the whole. And when the whole benefits in a fair way, when the ground rules serve everybody, the structure of systems and support and social groups, that actually has so much more strength than just the power of one person. So we're also coming into this question of authority. This layers on to the Saturn and Aries themes that we talked about in last week's episode, and this eclipse is opening this conversation in a big way, asking, how do we participate with authority? Where do we locate authority outside of ourselves, project that authority, give that power away? And where are we being called to take a stand, to assert more of our personal power for the betterment of something beyond just ourselves? And so this social friction, this collective ignition, future pressure, participatory power, it's ready and asking for us to disrupt the standard quo of authority. And so I invite you, look at your natal chart. What house does Aquarius rule in your chart? Think about the themes and the topics of that house. And then also, are there any planets in Aquarius in your natal chart? Are you born with any of the planets in Aquarius? And you might want to layer in, if there are planets in Aquarius, maybe the houses and the topics that they host, that they rule and they're responsible for. And then asking yourself, how are you personally being called to relate to what's happening on a collective level in this specific area of your life? How are you starting to feel at the time of this eclipse with the North Node, this push, this hunger to grow, to develop, to move towards and evolve, this disruption of outdated systems of authority, traditions, and rules? So for me, I have Aquarius that rules the 5th house, and I have Mercury in Aquarius. So a lot of this has to do with pushing the authority of my own personal creativity, pleasure, and joy. The 5th house is a place that is not for anybody else. It is my own. And I'm definitely feeling, with Saturn moving into Aries, and in last week's episode, I talked about this, the collecting of the no's, the questioning and disrupting the status quo of even the rules I internally, my inner critic is always holding me accountable to when it comes to my creative expression, my self-expression, my exploration of pleasure and joy and romance and fun. And I feel like this Aquarius eclipse is an opportunity for me to kind of cultivate this intention. I go outside of my own comfort zone of what I believe or what I've been taught or conditioned to believe is okay. It's normal. It's accepted. It's tolerated. It's in the group, right? It's like, this is what is okay. What would it be like if I actually didn't give a fuck about that? If I challenged all of those status quos and I actually used that intention of disrupting the status quo in my own natal 5th house, potentially through my words, potentially through my podcasting, potentially through this platform, to be more authentic, to be more real, to be less inhibited by the idea or the pressure of something outside of myself, and to have that tethered to the intention that when I do that for myself, when I believe it's safe and it's okay for me to speak from a deeply personal, authentic level that's not about anybody else or create from that level, I'm doing something better for the collective. And that might lead to some sort of discovery or innovation, some sort of update in systems, whether it's a local collective level or a greater collective level in the groups and the people that I'm involved with relationally, even like business. So again, just some things to think about. We're just opening this eclipse cycle. It's going to last through 2028. But I really do invite you and encourage you to think about how, on a personal level, where is your personal puzzle piece? And you can use the astrology chart to help you locate that by finding the house that Aquarius rules in your chart, the topics and the themes associated with that, and any planets that might be in that Aquarius house that are going to be activated during these eclipses. They've already been activated by Uranus and Taurus, and now Pluto in Aquarius, but now they're going to get an acceleration, some fated karmic turning points with these new eclipses in Aquarius and Leo coming up. So now I want to go ahead and give you just a few general Aquarius themes. And I'm just going to riff. I'm just going to list them off. I have them written down here. I wrote them down. And whatever resonates, just listen and feel if there's any kind of physical or emotional activation within you. And you can pin that and come back to that, and you can layer that into how you might be being called forward, what layer or level of the Aquarius archetype, that ignition or that pressure that's going to help all of us push into a new future, a better future. So here we go. Critical thinking, social awareness, inclusion, equality, addressing and changing dysfunctional systems and rules that govern collectives of people, collaborative efforts to progress and improve society, future or forward thinking, innovation, discovery, testing traditional ways of operating and thinking. And that final piece is the thing that's really standing out to me the most. When we zoom out of this lunar cycle and not just focus on this new moon, this solar eclipse in Aquarius, we have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. We have a total lunar eclipse in Virgo with its ruler Mercury retrograde in Pisces in its fall. We have Jupiter stationing direct at its degree of exaltation in the sign of Cancer. We've also got Venus traveling through Pisces, conjuncting the North Node in her sign of exaltation. And so there is a lot of this Aquarius Pisces idea of challenging our traditional ways of thinking and relating to the limitations of this world and reality. And the image that was coming to me symbolically, archetypally, that I'm going to be putting a lot more into my written content on the social media posts. So you can check that out. It'll be coming up closer to the date of this actual eclipse if you want to know more about that. I don't know if you've ever seen The Matrix. I don't know who hasn't seen The Matrix at this point, but it's from The Matrix. And it's the scene where Neo comes to meet the Oracle, and while he's waiting, he sits in front of this young child, and the child is just bending spoons, and Neo is just fascinated. He's watching him do this with his mind, and it's causing a glitch in the matrix of his own mind. He doesn't understand, how could he possibly be doing this? And then Neo asks, could I try? And the child says yes, and he gives him the spoon, and he looks at Neo, and all he says is, there is no spoon. That is the tagline for this lunar cycle, for this Aquarius new moon, for the crossover between the Leo Aquarius eclipses and the Virgo Pisces eclipses that we're going to be living through all of 2026. What would it be like to drop into a state of mind where, think about the spoon as authority, as the rules, the people in charge of upholding the rules, the people that we have to answer to, the rules that we have to answer to, the traditions. Now we're kind of in this space where it's like, but what if there is no spoon? And what if we could tap into new capacities of operating in both reality and with each other and with these limitations of gravity of Saturn? But Saturn is in its fall, it's conjunct Neptune. So maybe there's an entire shift in how the rules of nature, the rules of this world, the rules of gravity, of time, of space, and our mind, the rules of what we're capable of, our hearts, the rules of the power of our emotions and our power and ability to connect beyond just ourselves or whoever is just physically present with us. I feel like it's going to be 10 years from now, and we're going to be laughing at the fact that we thought that there was a spoon that couldn't be bent, symbolically, metaphorically. You get where I'm going with that. All right, I want to go ahead and just close this episode about this eclipse with 3 reflection prompts. So take what resonates and leave the rest. And I want to note real quick, remind you that I would specifically, if I were you, apply these prompts to the themes specific to the Aquarius house of your chart. Where am I still outsourcing authority instead of claiming authorship in my life? 2, what collective systems or group dynamics am I ready to question or reform? 3, if the old rules no longer guaranteed safety and security, how would I choose to move differently? How would I choose to challenge the status quo? So welcome to eclipse season. A reminder that I repeat in my all about eclipses video on my channel, eclipses are not new moons and full moons that we traditionally want to do any kind of manifestation work. It's more of a time to really be open and to take extra good care of our physical bodies and make sure that we're cushioned with all of the practices and the tools and the resources that help to maintain grounding, regulation, and connection to the things that matter, that can hold us through the quake of whatever the eclipses shake out, move, change, majorly begin, or majorly end. And then when we get out of that, The whole wave of the eclipses have crashed and landed and processed through. We're going to get to the other side. We're going to get to the next lunar cycle, and then it'll be a time to start getting into that co-creative space of working, ritualizing with the new moons, with the lunar cycle and the transits. For now, just be ready for change and do what you can to put yourself into circles of people that remind you and reflect back to you the things that you care about, the things that matter, and that ignite the most constructive passion and purpose and whatever creative fire, whatever fire of activism and change that you're ready to participate, you're ready to step into and join. Join us, join me, join whatever mission, whatever change, whatever improvement collectively that you care about. And if you haven't already, it helps the channel so much. I really appreciate you guys getting me to hype status. If you want to hype this video, that'd be great. But if you don't want to hype the video, it still helps so much if you could just like the video and also subscribing to my channel, turning your notifications on. That way you're never going to miss when the new episode drops every Thursday, or maybe a surprise bonus focus topic episode like that All About Eclipses episode that I dropped a few months ago. And I mentioned my written social media content that's going to be coming out in the beginning of next week, closer to the eclipse. If you're somebody who loves music just like me and you don't know, now you know. I make a custom Spotify playlist for every single new moon lunar cycle, taking into consideration the energies and the transits of the entire lunar cycle. So that's going to be coming out as well. And everything's going to be linked below this episode and future episodes, all the ways that you can work with me, all the things I have so we can stay connected outside of this one little podcast episode each week. All right, everybody, I love you. I appreciate you. I'm wishing everybody the best beginning to this eclipse season and this new eclipse cycle opening in the Aquarius Leo axis. And I will see all of you back here. We will get cozy next week and talk all things cosmos.